All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, if you're watching this live or the recording later on. My name is Dave Eckroat. I'm the director for IDEA StatiCa US, and we're very happy to be presenting this webinar today on the latest version 24 of IDEA StatiCa. Uh, so PJP Welds and more will kind of walk you through everything that we've kind of added into this version. So go ahead and next slide. So looking at the agenda, so we're going to be looking at two things today. One, well, a bunch of things, but two applications. So first we'll go through the enhancements we've made to the connection app. So obviously PJP Welds, which has probably been the most requested feature that we've been asked for in the last couple of years. We're going to talk about the section views and what adjustments we've made to that. Do a brief introduction to parametric design, and then the new plate reference and extending members. And that will be Johan will be presenting all of that on the connection app. Then we'll go into Checkbot, and that is when Andrea will take over. So she'll talk about Checkbot for use in delegated connection design workflows. Talk about the online viewer, our web connection library, the addition of some filters in there, and then finally some checkbot improvements. So before we get into the webinar, I just have a poll question I want to share. So just asking if you've used IDEA StatiCa version 24 yet. I know it's been out for probably almost a month now. So just give it a minute or so to kind of see what everybody has to say. All right. Boy, everybody is quick on the trigger today. Already have 81%. So let me go ahead and I'm going to close that because I know we have a lot to cover. And I'll share it just so you can kind of see. So interestingly, 40% of you have used version 24. So that's great. That's what we like to hear. 53% have not just yet. And I know there's a lot of different reasons why you may not have used version 24 as a user. And then about 6% of you don't have licenses. So all good. So with that, I will hide the poll and I will hand it off to Johan.
Alrighty, thank you, Dave. So today we'll start off this webinar by talking about the connection application, looking at the major releases for it, and then we'll jump into Andrea's side of the presentation. And again, to start with the major release for the connection application is that we now carry the PJP Weld option here in the connection application. So as you may know, IDEA StatiCa, we have always offered either fillet welds or CJP welds as part of the only welding options. But now with this new version 24 release, now we are able to add PJP into the family of welds that we have available for the users. Now, as a heads up, since it is an initial release, you may notice that some of the visual representations will sometimes not match up. So as you can see on the bottom third image, the visual representation might not always be the best just because it is the first initial release. Now, what matters here is that the analysis portion is done right, and that's what has been the main focus on here. Now, as you can see on these images, we have different examples where you will be able to use PJP welds. For example, that splice connection that's being connected through plates connections, or the bottom one where we have a perpendicular plate to a beam flange. And as you may notice, all of these connections are made through a edge to surface connection type. And this is how we can move on to the technical notes for this new release of PJP Welds. And as you may notice, for its initial release, we are only able to do edge to surface connection. Now, this does not mean that it's only available for perpendicular connections, such as the first image that you see on the upper image, but it also applies to plates that are parallel to each other, stacked upon each other. So as you can see on the bottom image, for example, we have that gray plate. Its edges are being connected to the HSS plate of the surface. Now, the input for this PJP welds will be the effective throat thickness. The type of groove weld that is being performed will be determined by the effective throat thickness. Now, this will be a user responsibility to be able to calculate this input. And similarly to the fillet welds, we will be converting the weld lines into shell elements and then use the elastoplastic material, which will allow us to redistribute the stresses and obtain results. Now, the factors that are available for the design of the different codes, either LRFD or ASD, are as shown, and this corresponds to both the shear and tension load. So we're only using one available strength factor, and that is the worst case scenario for both shear and tension, so that only one factor is used. Now, lastly, we are changing the symbol for the report and the counts so that you can differentiate between fillet welds and PJP welds. Now, on the next slide, here you will be able to see how you will be inputting that sizing for that weld. As you can see, the effective throat thickness will be inputted solely for PJP welds. And for example, in the construction manual table J2.2, you will be able to obtain that effective throat thickness depending on the welding process and the type of weld that you are having for this connection. So based on these two different, either process and weld, you will be able to determine the effective throat thickness, which will then be the input that you will be adding here in IDEA StatiCa. Now, as far as the symbols goes, here is where you will be able to differentiate. On the right-hand side, we have the sketches. And as you can see, we're having different symbols either for fillet welds or PJP welds. On the left-hand side, you will be able to see these different symbols in the results for our welds. As you can see here, this is a different type of weld symbol that is being displayed for PJP, along with the different formulas that are being used for PJP weld check and its resistance factor for both shear and tension. All right. And lastly, because we have added effective throat thickness to the option for the PJP welds, we have decided to add a feature where you will be able to change the weld specification for your fillet welds as well. So you will be able to define either the weld size or throat thickness for your fillet welds. So if you want to have the input the same for all welds for throat thickness, you are able to do so. Now here, if you do change the weld specification for leg size, it will only affect the fillet weld. The PJP weld will always stay as throat thickness as the default input for the weld sizing. And this basically covers the main information for the release of PJP welds. And now we can move on to some of the other minor releases that we have for the connection application. Now, the other release that we have for the connection application is the section views. And this is mainly to improve the sketches that we're providing for your reports. So in previous versions, the way that we created the sketches will be just to right-click, create a sketch, and all the information for those sketches will be provided, whether it be the dimensions, labels, bolts, weld size, everything will be included into one sketch of your connection. By doing this, sometimes complex connections could create a lot of information and create your sketches to be very cluttered. With this, sometimes the sketches will become unusable. Now with version 24, with our newer release, we have options to filter this information in our sketches. As you can see here, the filters include dimensions, member labels, bolt labels, and weld sizes. And again, if we run through some of these, for the upper image, the doubler, what we have of information available for this sketch is only the dimensions and the welds. For this gusset plate, we have only the plate labels and the weld sizing. And lastly, for that splice connection, we only have the dimensions and the bolt labels. Now, as you can see here, after you define your different sketches, what you can do with these sketches is use it in your report. And on the left-hand side, here you can see how these sketches are displayed in your report. Now, Upcoming week, I will be able to show you the video on how to access these different sketches. So if we run through them really quickly, just go to your connection, right click, select create connection. That sketch is automatically created with all the information. But then again, under your sketches, you are able to edit what information is added onto them. As you can see here, you can add multiple sketches for one single connection, and every sketch will have its different filters to add onto them. As part of added features here, you are able to increase or decrease the amount of information that is being displayed and the type of sketch that you're creating. Lastly, we're creating a sketch for that splice connection, and here adding more filters to this type of sketch. Now, once you have created all your different sketches, all you have to do is run your calculation, ensure your analysis is correct, and then just go to your report tab. Under your report tab on the bottom right corner, you do have that option to include the user-defined sections. Once you have it, you'll just generate it and have all your different sketches in your report. All right, moving on to the next release is that we now have parametric connections. And this is just, again, another early release. And with this early release, we're including 50 ready-to-use templates. These templates allow you for easy customization. So we already preloaded different parameters into all these different connections. And so within these connections, you will be able to make adjustments a lot quicker for things such as your plate thickness, depth, offset, and much more. Now, for our more advanced users, they are able to access that developer mode. Within the developer mode, users will be able to create their own customized parametric templates to be able to use in the future. Now, these customized parametric connections are very useful for your modular cases where the same connections are used, but only certain parameters have to be adjusted. So as you can see here in this simple connection, we have different parameters such as the plate thickness, number of bolts, offsets, and the depth of the stiffener. By having these 4 parameters, we already know that the connection will be the same. And so we can quickly go to our operations menu and quickly adjust these different parameters. Again, we already have 50 preloaded connections that can be quickly accessed through connection library. Just set up the geometry, go to propose, and we will have some saved parametric connections for you. Again, if you are a more advanced user who would like to access the developer mode, you will be able to do that to create your own customized parametric connections. All right, next up, we have another release, which is coming from the plate operation. And this is the new plate reference. So whenever you're creating a stiffening plate, under the origin options, by default, IDEA has always had joint, member, or plate. For joint, for a connection, for a plate, it will be placed at the working point 00 origin. For a member, you will be able to attach it to a member plate and choose the different options, whether ribs, stiffener, or other ones. Or lastly, you will be able to have the option to reference it to a plate. Although these are very beneficial options, sometimes for HSS connections, these are not suitable. The reason being because for HSS connections, we are not defining the HSS by plates, but rather by arcs, which when selecting all these different arcs to reference the plates, the locations can be placed at the wrong position. So with this, we've developed the member local coordinate system to be part of the origin. Within here, you are able to adjust the plate based on the member local axis, and this is mainly beneficial for its local x-axis. Whenever you want to follow that same member location, you are able to do so. So here we have different complex connections that you can see where these cases are useful. And lastly, we have the cut operation, and this is another added feature which allows you to extend your member to the end of the other member. So here for previous versions, the way to do it, you would have to cut the member, change the cutting plate, and then in certain cases, actually add that offset manually. Within here, you are avoiding that offset EX input, which again, if you are inputting any EX offset from your members, can affect your loading position. So by avoiding this, we have added the extend to the member option within the cutoff member. Whenever you click this option, the member will automatically be extended, as you can see on the bottom right corner. Now, as a quick video to run through this one, basically for case scenarios where you have a beam over a column situation, sometimes you have an ended member and you want to add an end plate to this connection. If you were to try to do this by default with a simple connection, this is the type of problems that you would encounter. Some users might use the EX offset within that member, but again, that affects the force position. So instead of doing that, the workaround is to use a cut, and now you can choose the cut and plate to be farther and choose the extend the member option. With this, you no longer have to manually input that offset, and if you do want to add an offset, it will be from the member end. Now here, it's important to mention that the order of operation matters, and that is why that end plate operation was copied over again, so that that end plate operation can read the new location of that member, so that when the bolts are applied to it, the bolts are applied to the member. With this, we're able to now basically cover the major releases that we have had for the connection application. And now we can jump onto the Checkbot and online viewer discussion.
Thanks, Johan. Actually, we're going to do another poll question, if everybody doesn't mind. Just kind of break things up. So the question is, how often do you use PJP Welds on your projects? So kind of give you 4 vague answers, all the time, sometimes, rarely, never. So we'll let that open for a few seconds. Let everybody respond. Okay, we'll give it another 10 seconds. Okay, we'll go ahead and close that and share it. And you can see just from the answers, so all the time, 27%, sometimes about 50%, 21% rarely, and 4% never. So again, just good information as we look at some of these options that we add into the software. This is just very helpful for us to kind of understand the markets. And like I said, this was something that was requested quite a bit in the last couple of years. So happy to see that it's in the software. And with that, we can hand off to Andrea.
All right, thank you. Let me start sharing my screen. All right, now I am sharing my screen here, and let's start talking about all the improvements we have done in Checkbot and our online applications. Let's start with this slide to briefly talk about what is Checkbot, in case you haven't heard about. So as I always mention, IDEA StatiCa is an independent software company that focuses on the structural engineering details. As we're independent, we don't have a global analysis software in our portfolio. Our main goal is to help engineers linking their main applications to IDEA StatiCa to design details like steel connections or critical elements on their global structure and saving time by reusing the models they already work on, right? So probably you have heard about the workflows we offer. If not, please check our website, our webinars, where we have these examples. But in summary, from your global analysis software, you can link the model to Checkbot and use the load combinations to design the joints of the structure. If there is any change in the main structure, we can synchronize changes from the other software into Checkbot, and that will update the loads and profile section changes. Then we have the second type of link where you already model the connections in your BIM or detailing software, and you want to export those connections into IDEA StatiCa. So it works the same. As the first type of the link, Checkbot is used to have control of the joints you imported. And if there is any change in profile sections, you can also synchronize the model. But this process that I just described was only applicable when the structural engineer or the detailer does the structural analysis and design of the whole structure and connection design. Okay. Now let's review what we have for cases like delegated connection design, where more than one person is involved in this process, right? So we are calling this Checkbot for delegated design, and I'm going to play a video here so you can understand what is this new feature, all right? Give me 1 second.
Reducing the time necessary for the proper exchange of design data is something where modern tools can help us a lot. Just imagine a situation where a detailer or draftsman needs a quick check of adjusted or new connection arrangements by an engineer. When they don't have a valid license for IDEA StatiCa software, or all the seats are already used by their colleagues, there is still a way. Simply sign up for the basic IDEA StatiCa account and gain access to most of the Checkbot app's functionalities. The free version is still able to import models from FEA, CAD or BIM applications. Once a model is imported, it is up to the specific workflow which path to take. Do I need a connection model for analysis? Just select the important ones and export a model file for connection code check by the engineer. Do I need to consult the model with other departments or contractors? What about sending the connections into Cloud Viewer and exporting the IFC file or 3D DWG with all the plate details? All this fun is under the same roof or one product package and with no need for additional licensed seats. Read our blog post and discover more now.
All right, so let's explain this process that was briefly introduced in that video. Let's use this diagram that I have here to explain how this process will be done. All right, so let's start talking about this first step where the structural design is done in a global analysis software like the ones that I show you in that box, in that first link. So the engineer analyze and design the whole structure, right? But that he is not the one that will do the connection design. So this EOR needs to send information to the connection designer, and normally that's done through maybe detailing plans or drawings or simple sketches or just a simple representation of the model. And also he sends only, envelope forces, envelope load combinations. But now with this functionality, the engineer can export the whole structure to Checkbot using a basic account of IDEA StatiCa. Then he or she creates the file, the Checkbot file. Then that engineer shares the Checkbot file to the connection designer through either cloud or email, because when you have a Checkbot file, you can zip it and then send it over via email or a cloud system. All right. Finally, the connection designer gets the Checkbot file with all the important information from the model, like geometry, load combinations, or if it's the other type of link, maybe he gets the initial design of the connection, then the connection designer can open that connection, that joint, and start the design process in IDEA StatiCa connection. So the connection designer doesn't need to manually input geometry or load combinations into IDEA StatiCa connection, right? So this new basic account, it's available. I mean, you can go to our website. Then if you go into this icon, you click over this portal icon, you can scroll down at the end and you will find this option to create your IDEA StatiCa basic account. With that basic account, you will have Checkbot for free. So you don't need to have IDEA StatiCa license, all right? Then from there, you can create a Checkbot file. You can follow the same instructions as we have as if you were like a regular license user, all right? But only creating the file, only creating the Checkbot file. Of course, you won't be able to open IDEA StatiCa connection, right? For that, you'll need a license. Anyway, with that basic account, you can also access to the viewer, okay, and our repository of connection library that I will talk about this, our web connection library. And finally, we have campus e-learning where we have online trainings to learn the basics of IDEA StatiCa. So that's all you can do with this basic account of IDEA StatiCa. All right. All right, so let's move on here to the following topic. All right, and the following topic is our online viewer. You already saw there in that video that from Checkbot you can access to the viewer, and I have here a model. Actually, we did a webinar about this 1 month ago. It's available, the recording, so you can watch. But anyway, so this model was imported from StatPro, right? And then you can see we have the whole structure here. If you look at this area, we have all the different joints, and as shown in the video, you can maybe multi-select connections here, all right, and say, okay, these connections, and you can see them here highlighted. I want to export it out from this Checkbot file. So you can either send the Checkbot file, the whole Checkbot file with the whole structure, or just exporting specific joints, all right? Anyway, so we were talking about online viewer. Let me go back to that. So you can see here, I have some of the connections already modeled and designed. Everything is fine here. So now I can click over this icon that says Open in Viewer, and that will lead you to our online viewer here. So if you look at this website, this is on Google Chrome, and automatically I got this model in our online viewer, all right? You can see all the details here, all right? And if you look at this tab, here we have the project, then you can open the project if you have IDEA StatiCa connection, right? You can download the 3D drawing. I saw a question about how to get drawings from IDEA StatiCa. You can get it from here. You will get the 3D model and also the 2D model of all the blades. Also, you can export to IFC file, so that is useful if you're using another BIM application, so you can import this IFC file. So this is like an open file for BIM applications, right? Then to see more details on this connection, you can jump into this design tab here. But before jumping there, don't forget to select the units applicable for this connection. So I'll select Imperial here. Then I can go into the Design tab. And you will see a list of items in the right side of the screen. And if you click over the drop-down menu, now in this online viewer, we can review the load effects in the different members. So those will be listed here in this area, and also in the 3D view area if we click on those. Right? So you can see here all the different load effects for that given load combination and the values in this right side. Now, if we click over the member list, you'll see the details for the different members. Like in this case, we're looking at the 12 by 79 with A36 material. Okay. Then also we can click over the plates, and we can look at the different operations containing a plate, and then you can see more details with this drawing here. All right. Then you have more information about the welds, the different welds sizes. So you can also click in this model view on the different items, and that will lead you to that information, to the given information. Like in this case, if you click over the plates, or if you click over the bolt operation as well. So you'll get the bolt assembly name, the sizes of those bolts, and then you can zoom in here and see more details in this area. That's it for the online viewer. Let's continue into this presentation, and then let's talk about the improvements in our web connection library. If you haven't heard about our web connection library, this is a huge, well, it is the largest repository of connections, right? And let me play this video. So you can access to connection library, web connection library from the main application of IDEA StatiCa. That will lead you to this website where you can define geometry, adding more members, putting different rotations, angles for the members, and then you search for connections for that type of geometry. Before, well, we had this before, but you couldn't have this filter for design code. We added this so you only look for connections with AISC design code, right? So after that, you say, okay, I probably will use this connection. You click over the open in desktop, and then that connection will be open in IDEA StatiCa connection. And then from there, you can modify the connection or start a new connection. So this helps you to start from something, right? Instead of starting from scratch, right? It's really helpful. And summary, again, we added this design code filter to only look for AISC connections. All right, so yep, that was it. So let's talk about this small improvement. Well, I'll say big improvement, but because this was an issue when you were exporting an StatPro model from, export from StatPro to Checkbot. The rotations weren't that exactly as in StatPro. So now if you test this, if you deal with angle sections in StatPro and then you're exporting that to Checkbot, now the correct angle is, the rotations are correct in Checkbot. So this is very useful for some of our StatPro users and Checkbot users. All right. And all right, so we have here a bonus. Finally, we have this bonus information. All right. As you probably know, we have a concrete solution to analyze and design concrete discontinuities. All right. The current software is a 2D solution. That means we are we're also breaking down the concrete elements into shell elements, the reinforced concrete element into shell element, which for some cases works really well. It simplifies the design, and we can avoid stratified analysis, okay, manual analysis. But we were missing the third dimension for cases like walls, where the out-of-plane loading is important, or concrete reinforced foundations, getting all types of forces from a steel column base plate. But that was until version 24. Currently, the new 3D solution for concrete detail is available as beta version, and it was only released for Eurocode, right? But let's watch the following video. Okay, so you can see a summary of this new app.
IDEA StatiCa Detail is like a completely new app in the latest version 24.0 with its brand new UI with revolutionary multi-select and multi-edit. The new application now runs much faster thanks to code refactoring performed by our development team. Generate your report with a reworked tree of entities. Organize your chapters and also customize your report further. Manage your cross-sections and materials in the newly refined Materials tab. Plus, IDEA StatiCa 3D Detail is now available in beta version. Get a taste of the future and take the new beta version for a test drive and explore the results of anchoring on reinforced concrete. Check out our latest blog post and read more.
All right. Well, that's it from me. Let's jump into the Q&A.
Yep, I can
David.
take care of this, Andrea.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah,
Hi.
thank you so much. We actually have a lot of questions, but many of them are very technical. So I think we'll just go over those that are not too specific, and we'll respond directly to the ones that have very technical questions. If you have more questions, just feel free to put them in the questions panel right now. So the first questions were about the PJP Welds and whether they were only available for the AIC codes. Currently, yes, only per AIC. I think we'll need to see if other codes, especially the Canadian codes, how much it would be or how useful it would be, and we'll work on this afterwards. Some questions about limitations for the link with Recess 3D. There is no major improvement to import loads from Recess 3D at this time, unfortunately. This actually is on RESA in their SF format. So right now we don't have anything new, but there's an updated workflow that can be found on the website to help you transfer these loads through Excel, actually, from RESA to Excel and then Excel to IDEA StatiCa. So you'll find that on the website. And the questions are coming in now. A question about the pins. They were added for the Eurocode model. Andrea, do you know if they're also available for the AIC code at this time?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay. Can a detailer using SDS2 export a connection using Checkbot? So if the question is about, well, I guess yes, whether it's sending a model from SDS2 to IDEA or from IDEA to SDS2, both ways are now available since the end of 2023, if I'm not mistaken. This is all I'm seeing currently.
Yeah. Yeah, probably when they start using version 24, more questions will come. So we recommend that, well, every time we create this article about release notes of IDEA StatiCa major versions, so I recommend going through that article. We have all the technical information, more detailed articles for each of the new improvements. All right.
Yeah, definitely. Feel free to download that new release and request the free detail 3D beta version that would give you access to detail for a few months. So you'll be able to do some concrete models in there for free.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing just to note is that the 3D detail is only meant for the Eurocode at this point. We are probably looking at about another year before it will be ready for ACI. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's a nice workflow to be able to design, reinforcement of your footings and pedestals for base plates. But at this point, unfortunately, we're going to be delayed a little bit for the ACI code.
All right.
I
think that's it for the questions, Dave. You may want to, yeah, there you go.
Sure.
Discuss the next part.
Yeah, so not sure if how many of you know this, but actually this month is an anniversary for IDEA. IDEA StatiCa connection is 10 years old. So we're running basically a celebration to celebrate the 10 years of making the right connections. And the nice thing is that you actually get a gift. So what we're doing with the promo is that since it's 10, 1 and 0, if you buy a new seat of IDEA StatiCa before the end of June, you get a comparable seat for free or for 0. So again, the 1, 0. So yeah, definitely something to look for. I know there's an email coming out later today to all of our users about it. So if you need more seats, usage is going up within your firm. Now is the perfect time to be able to get it, as you can get a free seat going forward. So just something to keep in mind. Next slide. And then just looking at some upcoming events. So in-person events, as usual, we're going to be doing some SEA conferences. I'm actually going to be at the Kentucky conference tomorrow and Friday. So if you happen to sit in on the webinar and are going to be at the conference, please stop by and say hi. Jason McNeil will be at the SEA of Arizona in June. And Aurelio Silva will be at SEA of North Carolina in mid-August. There may be some other stragglers that we kind of tack in through the summer, but those are the main live events for the rest of the summer, basically. As we look at our webinar schedule, the next webinar will be in June, and it'll focus on buckling analysis and kind of how to run buckling analysis and kind of answer some of the main questions that we get through tech support about it. And then we will have a webinar in July. We have not yet decided the topic yet, but we'll definitely be sending that information out to you all. Let's see, were there any other questions that got added?
No, just another question about RISA, but I think we just answered it.
Okay. All right. Is there another slide, or is that the last one? I can't remember.
Yeah, that was the last one. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, I mean, definitely hope you all enjoy the webinar and version 24. Obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to all of us. That's why we're here. And look at that, you get 15 minutes back in your day. So thanks for attending, and we will see you in June.